Well, I think there's going to be change. I think in the sense that I think that they can't be much more depressing or depressed than they were last year. In terms of there was just this huge kind of shroud over this organization the whole season. I think they've lightened the tone a little bit. They brought in some retread guys who may or may not make a difference. They both have plenty to prove, and I personally can't see them finishing any higher than 9th, but that's just me.
Yeah, I have them picked to finish 9th as well. Tanguay, Alex Tanguay, he could be the answer, at least for Jerome. I think that Alex is obviously he's a playmaker. He can hit the puck around. He's very creative. So I think as long as Alex is feeling good about Alex and feels confident, I really do think that Jerome's stats might go up. I'm not sure if Olli Jokinen is the answer. And with all these injuries, I think they've got some depth concerns up front.
They certainly do. I agree with you about Tanguay. Nobody passes the puck on this team like him. Nobody has passed the puck on this team like him since he left. But this preseason, he had a wonderful preseason. He threw the thing around. It was just great to watch. But now we see when Kevin Bieksa starts giving him a two-hander over his forearms, and they start turning white, and suddenly, it's combat rather than just kind of play school. We're going to see whether he can come back to being the Alex Tanguay that was a very, very, very efficient player in Colorado.
What about the Alex Columnist project?
It's a project. It's a big project. It's kind of like a mega project. Again, we're in preseason, and he's had a great preseason, and that's wonderful. But you got to wonder whether or not he can transform that kind of play that he's had in the preseason over into the regular season when it's full NHL lineups, when the speed gets up, when it gets nasty, when he has to go into dirty areas, when suddenly things aren't quite as bright and breezy and all daffodils and buttercups as they are in the preseason. And the jury certainly has to be way, way out on him.
Yeah, Alex looked great, but we always knew that Alex Kotelik had great skills. Everybody knows that. That's a given. It's just some nights last year he looked just disinterested. He called himself a broken man. I like the fact that he came back. He seemed to be more confident. He seemed very determined. Obviously, he had quite a few conversations with Brent Sutter. But that injury again, I mean, it's a knee. Knees can take 6 weeks. They can take 6 months. We don't know when we're going to see Alex Kotelik again.
Last year, they were virtually, well, for an NHL hockey team, injury-free. I mean, none of their major guys, maybe Jerome, Dion when he was here, Bouwmeester, Kiprasov, none of those guys got hurt. And this year already we're starting to see a toll taken. And maybe some of the IOUs that they called in last year on their injuries are starting to happen now. And if this team gets hurt, like Vicki said, there's not a ton of depth on this team. It's an older team, second oldest team in the league last year at the end of the year, the oldest non-playoff team, and all they did was add a couple of 30-somethings in Tanguay and Jokinen. So, this injuries could be a very, very big part of this team's season.
Oh, absolutely. They're in trouble right now. I mean, can they bounce back for it? It depends on the severity of the injuries, but Damon Lanko, who knows if or when we're going to see him.
Yeah.
Also, just because a guy's back, sometimes they take quite a while. If you separate your shoulder and you're back in the lineup, that's great, but he's not necessarily 100%.
Well, no, and we're looking at guys right now. You mentioned Kotelik and other guys. I mean, these are not guys that play like Brian Sutter used to play or play like Mark Messier used to play. These are guys who need to feel real good about themselves and everything around them to perform at top level. And if they're hurt a little bit, there may be some issues there in terms of their compete level and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see when those guys come back, if they are 100% or if they aren't, just how willing to go at it they're going to be right away.
The first 2 months of the season are crucial, and I know that's cliche and everyone always says that, but with these injuries, they don't want to fall too far behind the pace because they can't score. Again, I mean, yes, the first line looks okay, and yes, they're scoring in preseason, but no Stajan, no Moss, possibly no Kotelik. It's starting to add up.
Well, it's starting to add up, and look at you made a really good point about the start. Look at last year, and Alex Tanguay brought it up yesterday when we were talking to him after the game. Look at Colorado and Phoenix. They got off to stunning starts last year, and they carried them all the way into the playoffs. If this team doesn't get off to a good start, after all the goodwill that has been manifested in a 7-0 preseason and a fairly competitive training camp, considering most of the spots were taken, hey, they could go south pretty quick. You look at the conference. We have Detroit, who's better. We have Chicago, who's better. We have San Jose, who's better. We have LA, who's coming up. We have there's one that I'm forgetting. Vancouver, who's better and is going to win the division. After that, it's like throw them in a sack and shuffle them around. I just think because of the Flames' age, because of the fact that they can't score, because last year they were virtually injury-free in terms of major players, and the fact that Kiprusoff had a fantastic season and they still couldn't make it. I just think that they're going to fight hard to the end, and they're going to fall up short like they did last year.
I'm gotten picked for 9th in the conference, and I don't think that they're going to make it. They'll come close. It might come down to the final weekend, but age, injuries are already starting to show, piling up. And Mika Kiprusoff last year, I mean, without Mika Kiprusoff, can you imagine where this team would have been last year?
That's a 13th, 14th place team.
Yeah, if without Mika Kiprusoff. So God bless him, but I don't know if he can have another year like that. Be good to watch, but I don't know.